meet your new best friends. You're gonna find a book you'll love to pieces. The girl behind the counter recommends dollar books and shelves of graphic novels. Titles old and new, you'll find them all. With action figures, board games, toys, and models to add to your new Comic Wednesday haul. The comic book store, the comic book store. 'Cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store.
Yes, indeedy. This is Source Material Live. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And it's Loki Wednesday. Yes, indeedy. Today, the first episode of Loki premieres on Disney Plus, this being June 9th, if you're listening to this podcast contemporaneously. So, we are celebrating here with a look at one of the handful of Loki series, Loki Marvel Comics series. And here to do that with me today is Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
Still recovering from last night's game night, but other than that, I'm good.
Did you guys play Risk and take a shot, after every battle?
Actually, we played a new game on the Switch called What the Dub.
Oh, you're playing video games.
We played Cards Against Humanity, video games, a couple of board games. It was a nice variety. So.
We always like a good game night. The last couple of Friends misses we've had, we played Cards Against Humanity. That's a fun one.
Oh, definitely. Now, What the Dub was a lot of fun. It's essentially... the way it works is that it plays a scene from a very, very, very old movie.
Mm-hmm. How old are we talking? 40s, 50s, 60s?
Jack Nicholson looked like a kid.
Okay, so 70s. Got it.
More like 60s and 50s.
Got it.
They play the scene, but then as they start talking, they blank out some of the audio. So then everyone has to enter in through their phones, because everyone's playing through, it's like Jackbox, what they think that next line would be.
Like what? Yeah, you don't know Jack? Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, it's very much so very similar to Cards Against Humanity, because then the game plays the audio of what everyone suggested the line would be, but it doesn't say who played it, and then everyone votes on who they think the funniest dubbed-in line was.
Oh, that sounds fun. I'll have to check that out.
Yep.
All right, so I threw you a challenge. I said, hey, in my quest to be more inclusive and be more of a team and not pick everything for everybody, I said, we're doing a Loki book because Loki premieres today on Disney Plus, as I said before. I don't care which book we're doing, you pick. And I gave you a week to pick, and you came up with Loki from 2019. The trade paperback is called The God Who Fell to Earth. It's a 5-issue limited series, or it was 5 issues and then it was canceled. I'm not really sure what the story here was. But it was quick, fast, and in a hurry. You picked it. And other than following my specific instructions of pick a Loki thing, what made you decide to do this one?
It was two factors. Firstly, I did a little Google searching on what a lot of articles said were some of the de facto Loki books.
Mm-hmm.
Both on just how great the character is, and also some of the articles were like, hey, before you start watching the show on Disney Plus, be sure to check out these books. I thought it would be good to get some input on that. And the other thing was I did a quick search on which of those books was available on hoopladigital.com. Those of you who are not familiar, this is a wonderful website that essentially is an online version of your public library. Get a library card, and you can download books, comic books, audio books, even some movies.
Okay.
This isn't a sponsor. This is just a wonderful website that I highly recommend.
Very good. So we landed here on Loki, the writer of which was Daniel Kibblesmith. Daniel Kibblesmith also wrote some Quantum and Woody, Black Panther versus Deadpool, and The Doorman. Are you familiar with him at all?
I saw the Black Panther versus Deadpool recommended after I finished. It's like, hey, if you like this, you should check this out. And I was like, of course, Deadpool's fought Black Panther. What a surprise!
I think Kibblesmith also wrote for. Did I read Conan O'Brien or something like that? I think I feel like I saw that he wrote for some sort of talk show. In any case, yeah,
this is really good writing. It's a little on the meta side, but it's very tongue-in-cheek, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, you picked a good one here. So let's get into it. This came out in September of 2019. It was in store. The in-store date was July 17th, 2019, and the artist on here is Oscar Bazaldua. The summation goes like this: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, all new ongoing series. After dying a grisly death in the War of the Realms. Let me stop there. Did you read the War of the Realms? Because I know I didn't.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
but I did, again, a little Google searching, and I was able to get the gist of what had happened, so I'd be able to catch up.
Yeah, it's on the back burner of books I want to read, but I just hadn't gotten to it yet. Loki, I'm too busy reading Mickey's Inferno, and Wonder Woman 77 teams up with the Bionic Woman.
Yeah, it's like, read books that I actually want to read. That's never going to happen. I always have to read books for the show.
I like to do, one for one. So I have a dedicated reading day when I can actually stay home and read. Loki learned a valuable lesson in warmongering. Don't get caught, right? But now he has a whole new set of responsibilities, and his brother Thor is not about to let him walk away from him this time. Late show in Black Panther versus Deadpool writer Daniel Kibblesmith takes the God of Mischief in a thrilling new direction. All right, so issue number 1, we open with sort of a, what happened with the War of the Realms. Loki is now king of the Frost Giants, and immediately after becoming king of the Frost Giants, he's fucked off and gone to a casino where he's having some fun. And the Frost Giants are just not happy about it. They have problems. They need their king to decide their issues. And Loki's just out there in an underground casino, and he's gambling, and he's having himself a good old time. As this moves on, Thor gets a sort of a vision from regarding the Unfather, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. We'll come back to that somewhat later. And then our villain of this entire 5-issue series, Nightmare, sees his opportunity to strike against the God of Mischief. All right, let me stop there. So what did you think of the book so far?
Okay, well, firstly, this artwork is gorgeous. This is a beautiful book. The lines are crisp. It's easy to see which characters are which. They also do, I always appreciate this in comic books, where when certain characters speak, they actually change the speech bubbles a little bit. Loki is actually given a slightly different font, and also when it's his internal monologue, it's a green, it's not a thought bubble. It's just...
It's like a narration box.
Narration box, thank you. When the Frost Giants are talking, it's actually blue. It's just very... I always like that kind of stuff, when they go out of their way to make it easier for the viewer to tell who is talking about what.
Yeah, I have definitely found newer comics that tends to be the trend. When we read stuff from like the 70s and 80s, I first of all, there's so much text, it's a little confusing sometimes as to who's talking and who's saying what, and you really have to kind of examine the page. These newer ones, they make it very clear who's doing what, in the good ones at least. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also love that we get the Loki's trickster tips, little sidebars every now and then. It's like, the first one, it's like, Loki's trickster tip number 1. Everyone loves a comedian. Set up your target for a punchline they can't refuse. Also known as the "that's what she said" technique.
Yeah, you mentioned before, this is very meta and very tongue-in-cheek. It doesn't quite break the fourth wall the way Deadpool does, but it does. It does, and we'll see this much later when he goes to see the Children of Eternal. How much it's very self-aware. You know, I sent the page out earlier in chat, and we'll get to it when we get there. But that had to be that got the biggest laugh out of me out of this entire book.
That was really good.
All right, so a big part of this book, and we're seeing this now. We get a little backstory here as he talks to Thor. Is he's always wanted to be king. He's wanted to be in charge, and he finally gets it. And and what we find out about Loki, and this is what makes him an interesting character to me, is that he is a character, as they say in wrestling, the thrill is in the chase. When they finally win the title, sure, that's thrilling too. But the day after, it's like, now what? And the now what is always a struggle for certain kinds of people. Loki is best off when he's in pursuit of something, or when when he can get into mischief, as they say. When he's finally achieved his goal, like he wanted to be king, but now he is, and he's like, well, this is boring. This isn't what I wanted. I want to go out and do stuff. I want to have adventures. I want to get into nonsense. And Thor's like, there's no making you happy.
Yeah, he basically shows him the Book of Loki, which I was kind of reminded of scenes from Supernatural, where Death, literally, like the Angel of Death, shows Dean all the books of all the potential things that could happen to him, and she's like, okay, and here's the end, and I want you to know none of these end good.
My favorite part of this particular book is Loki, is Thor saying, look, someone has to sit in the throne to settle, kingly matters. And he's like, fine. And he makes a snowman.
And he names it Frosty.
Yes, and with the stylized O and everything else.
And he used the Norn stones as his eyes to give him life. Oh my god! Yeah, it's like Frosty, the snowman, the right hand of Jotunheim. I got that in your head when you read that.
No, because in all honesty, I went to the comment section on the website I was reading this on, and the first thing I see is Loki asking Thor if he wants to build a snowman.
Of course.
Do you want to build a snowman?
And have it rule in my place.
Perfect. So yeah, this is, at this point, I can't take Loki seriously as a villain, but as sort of a neutral, a true neutral or neutral evil sort of pain in the ass to Thor, but not necessarily a mustache twirly villain. I think he works. He's a fun kind of anti-hero.
I just really love the whole concept of, do you know what happened to the man who finally got everything he ever wanted? He was bored out of his mind. Yep,
that's a big theme of this book. But just to keep things up and lively, here comes Nightmare. And Loki has him eaten by the snowman, like you do. So that was quick.
Yeah, my lord Nightmare sits heavily. I shall utilize the power of my stones to digest and excrete this creature back into his home dimension. He's basically getting shit out by a giant snowman and sent home.
And in the final couple of pages, we flash forward to the future, and it says, curse me to hell, the wrong room. And someone says, is he? And he says, it's him, mother. He heard me. It's God, I think. And then in the last panel of the book, I think God is dead. And we go on to the next chapter.
What this is, like, in the slightest.
No. The main thread of the story is fine. The stuff they kind of, like, hint at, I guess they'll get to in a different book or somewhere along the line. Who knows? Yeah, it was a little weird. All right, issue number 2, Escape from Stark Unlimited. Restless with his new duties after the War of the Realms, Loki seeks out the advice of the closest thing Earth has to a king, Tony Stark, the invincible Iron Man. Ha! Close enough, right? But it turns out old Shellhead isn't happy to see Loki on account of all the stuff he did. Now the God of Mischief story's evil chaos has to outsmart the cleverest man in Midgard or die again trying. Meanwhile, could Thor be hatching a mischievous plot of his own? All right, so we see Loki trying to get an appointment with Tony Stark, and he's talking to the AI and everything. And there's and I tell you what, I always talk about there are certain comic panels that I would love to have blown up and as a poster on the wall. Loki in the T-shirt that says Loki, L-O-W-K-E-Y, is hilarious.
Seriously, I haven't started watching the series yet. I'm gonna watch it a little bit later with Andre, but so help me, if he doesn't wear this shirt at least once, I am going to be so disappointed.
Yeah, this is great. And I kind of like Loki, just sort of sort of a rock and roll vagabond, earthly kind of, sexy figure. I think that's a good look on him. The sort of the pompous, aggravated God of Mischief. I think, we did that already. We've done that for years. Let's, I need a Loki that would hang out, what's the name of the show? The Deuce. I need a Loki that hangs out on the Deuce. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just love how he gets sucked up into Tony's trap. I mean, so help me God, it looks like something that Wile E. Coyote built.
All right, so Tony finally goes to deal with him, and they're having this exchange. It's a lot of this would be very funny acted out between Robert Downey Jr. and actor that plays
Tom
Loki.
Hiddleston.
Who?
Or no, not Tom Hiddleston. Oh my God, what is? It's freaking Loki Day. How the hell have we forgotten the last name of the actor?
I think you're right, though. I think it is Tom Hiddleston. Yeah, Tom Hiddleston. You had it right.
You're right. For some reason, I tend to worry if I'm second guessing Tom Hiddleston and Tom Holland.
Well, one's a child from England.
Yeah, and Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man. And the other one was in Crimson Peak, if I remember correctly. All right, moving on. So, Tony and Loki are having this back and forth, kind of like they did in the Avengers, which was cute. Not a great plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like Wile E. Coyote, you mentioned this before. Tony's like, move a little to the left. I'll just eyeball it, and he falls into this trap. So Tony's got this big gun on him, and he says, "All right, let's talk."
And we get Loki's trickster tips number 2. Watch your step. You may be cleverer than your opponent, but don't discount the advantage of being a total nerd with ungodly time on one's hands.
So Loki actually came to Tony in earnest for advice. He says, "King to king, I am not the king of Earth." Aren't you, though? I like that the writer's really having fun with the whole concept of Iron Man. Look, since you've saved the world more recently than you've destroyed it, I'll give you 3 words to explain what you're doing here before I fire up Betsy. And he says, "Thor sent me." He says, "Of course he did. You're the only soft spot on that wall of Viking muscle. God, I got to get back in the gym." So how are you and the new Allfather getting along these days? And Loki says, "Long story." And we have another flashback to Thor and Loki talking. And Loki attempts to get Tony to believe that Thor said he could join the Avengers if Tony agrees. He says, "I had to ask you."
How many times when we were kids did our parents say no, and then we went to the other parent and they said, "Ask you"?
I will tell you, not to get into a total side tangent on this, but I have told my kids that if I say no or your mother says no, and then you come and ask me, no matter what I say after that, if I find out that the answer was first no, that's what it's going to be, and you're going to be in trouble for splitting than you were for anything else. So my kids tend not to do stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely a thing kids do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're back to Nightmare again. And this was like as fun and lighthearted as this book is, this was really terrifying. Nightmare shows up in this woman Megan's life. She's some sort of a doorway for him. And so she pops back in, and he doesn't kill her, but he does change the night that she met her wife. And now that never happened. What a horrible thing to happen to someone.
Yeah, no kidding. It kind of, the way he pops through, though, kind of reminds me of Zatanna by Paul Dini, the idea that he basically says, "Oh, okay, I can use you as a door now to get out of here."
Mm-hmm. So Nightmare still trying to figure out how he can get back at Loki. And then we're back to Loki and Iron Man again. He says, "So the Avengers, I understand you recently enlisted a Doctor Strange. If you require a proper sorcerer to show him the ropes, I'm also open to a leadership position if Captain America's off petting a dog or something." and now we get to the meat of this, which we'll find out later. This is a sort of a Chekhov's gun here.
This was brilliant. When you get to the Chekhov's gun at the end, you realize how this little moment where it looks like he's pocketed a screw or a nut or something off of this self-driving car. That was actually the moment that I stood up and clapped. I was like, okay, bravo. This was genius.
Well done, well done. So yeah, he's messing with this car and he's got something off. I love this exchange between the two of them. Heaven forbid I prevent the great Tony Stark from inventing the car. Like, I can totally hear Tom Hiddleston saying that. Reinventing self-driving, solar-powered dirt cheap equipped with the Starkey, the same digital assistant that's in every Stark phone. That baby's going to save more lives than Iron Man. Loki goes, bit of a humble brag. I'm Tony Stark. It's a regular brag. I call it the automated nanophotonic vehicular luxury, or the Anvil, which is hilarious, by the way. And it needs to be ready to show stockholders in a few hours than I'd like. You named a vehicle after a heavy, immovable object? Listen, trademark law is very... You know what? Why am I still talking to you? You're applying to the Avengers. Application denied. But I'm already avenging. I destroyed your illegal Sky Casino for you. I don't own an illegal Sky Casino. You're welcome. Nice try. This goes on and on.
Yeah, essentially it culminates in Tony saying, okay, there's only one way I'll consider you for the Avengers, if you walk in carrying Mjolnir.
Right.
But basically saying, if Mjolnir deems you worthy enough to wield it, then that's the only way I'll trust you.
Mm. So then Loki goes back outside, and he sees a bird, and I think that bird is Nightmare. Mm-hmm. So...
Oh, he also pockets one of Stark's cell phones.
Yes, which we'll come back to later. So then we go back to him talking to Thor in the library again. We get a little more of that scene. And Loki goes through a portal, and this is where he comes to the House of Ideas, and he meets Infinity's children.
Eternity's children.
And that brings us to issue number 3. Alrighty, issue number 3, which came out, cover date November 9th, 2019, in-store date September 11th, 2019. Welcome to his nightmare. The nefarious nightmare has come to Earth, and only Loki, the god of nothing, can stop him from trapping all of New York City into the nightmare dimension. But first he'll need to strike a bargain with a new and powerful force that will change the Marvel Universe forever. Again. Who or what will Loki become when he steps foot into the mysterious House of Ideas? This is my favorite issue of this entire book. If nothing else, I was glad to have read it just for this issue. This was fantastic.
Yeah, I love the design of the Children of Eternity, although admittedly looking at their clothes, it's like, well, you dated the book just the teeniest, tiniest bit with the way they're dressed. But still, when they open up the House of Ideas, which is a double-page spread, it is so cool. You got statues floating, you have endless bookcases. Again, this artwork is so gorgeous. The lighting and the colors is beautiful.
So it opens with Megan on the bus, and she's trying to, and she remembers meeting her wife, but it never happened in real life, so she's not there. And then then we flash over to Loki, and he's dealing with the Children of Eternity, and they are explaining things. We get a lot of exposition. Then, you have that double-page splash that you were just talking about with the statues and whatnot. And we flash over to the Frost Giants. The Snowman is making kingly decisions. I love the logic of this. You cannot betray your nature. Your farm will fail. Your family will die. And if you wish to eat, I suggest you kill something. Request denied. And then we go back to Loki again. And this is just a great exchange here. Any hero who was ever marveled at, written unconsciously by the collective minds of the true believers, and achieved here for all eternity. This is the archive. Sorry. This is like the most meta of all of this whole thing. Before you are the books of Thor, mostly pictures, I'll wager, and that fellow appears to have even more stories than my brother. Yeah, that's the book of Spider-Man. I was talking to somebody recently about that, where it was like, oh, get him a Spider-Man comic. Well, which one? Amazing, spectacular, web of, this goes on forever. Really, good for him. Gods above, look at this shelf. Who the hell could have that many stories written about them? Ah, yes. These are the books of... Okay, now I remember why I was having that conversation, because we were talking about Wolverine, who's had 900 million books written about him, too. These are the books of Wolverine, which I laughed hard at.
Me too. Now, again, going back to the artwork, the artist did something kind of interesting with this, that most of the bookshelves, they're not just tall, they're curvy and they're winding. If you're not actually looking at the characters, this scene actually could almost make you feel a little dizzy, the way that the bookshelves are kind of winding around each other. And I think the idea is just that, it's not the House of Ideas is not, constantly morphing and shifting and everything. It's just that that's the way some of these bookshelves are designed.
Yeah. If you remember the movie Doctor Strange and how that was shot like a kaleidoscope at times, it has that kind of look to it.
And we get Loki's Trickster Tips number 3. Nothing is free. And if you don't believe me, I've got a gently used chariot to sell you. Runs like a dream. Previous owner was a little old lady. Only drove to the shrine and back on Odin's Day. Bop. Hey, I actually had a car that was, seriously, one of my older cars. The joke was because I had to get it from a friend of mine who it belonged to his mother-in-law, who sadly was starting to show signs of Alzheimer's. And when you have someone with Alzheimer's, rule number 1 is you get rid of the car. And they're like, yeah, she didn't really drive it. I mean, she went to church on Sunday, so the mileage is low. And I was just like, are you telling me I'm seriously about to drive the car that was once owned by a little old lady who only drove it once a week? It's like, did I just seriously walk into the punchline?
So the kids say, it's a bargain, yes, but all we want is what you want. We have heard your fondest wish, King Loki of Jotunheim, son of no one, god of nothing, and we are here to oblige. And he says, first off, ow. Secondly, you've seen into my heart. You know I haven't any more desires. I'm king, and an honest-to-bore hero. What could you possibly offer me? And the same thing we offer other heroes. More time, blank pages in the books of Loki, untold tales made real by the telling. All that is written shall remain, but in between, more nows and more thens. You're telling me Thor, Spider-Man, they all came before you and struck this bargain? Each is different. Most heroes have no memory of our intervention, but we heard their request all the same, in dreams or prayers, or angry screams. And this goes on, and it says, at the end, they asked for more time. Some of them asked for more time to be punished. So Wolverine says, sounds like the Wolverine I know. So what does my heart of hearts tell you it wants? Freedom from your own success. You know what they say about the man who suddenly got everything he'd wished for. He was bored to tears. Well, best on getting on with it then. Let the trials begin. And I do this game of chess, which is fun. And Loki ends up winning. And I'm really hoping that if not the Loki series, then maybe the next Doctor Strange movie will get this concept of playing chess while also being the pieces, because this was so clever. I mean, you get one point where Loki literally becomes the queen, and he's now a woman, which plays actually into the classic comics, the idea that Loki, as the trickster god, was, for lack of better terms, gender fluid, and often would take a male form or a female form. And then I love it. It's like, I'm killed as a rook. I've never been clear on how you kill a castle with a sword. But still, it's so clever, and I just remember it's like, please tell me that they're actually going to put this in either the TV show or the movie, because this would be so cool to visually see on the screen. Yeah, I'm sure, given that he's traveling to alternate times and dimensions and whatnot, we'll probably see him as a woman just once. I think I remember them saying they casted a woman for that role. So we're back to Megan again. And Megan goes to see her wife's parents, and
I think it's her parents.
Yeah, and they were like, "Who's Robin?" That's right. All right, so we're back to Loki and the children here, and we get a page that says "Stand Soapbox," which is pretty funny. All right, and then Loki is back on Earth again. And, right, that's right. I came here to see Tony, or I already saw Tony. Everything's still fuzzy. Or maybe it's just that corporate eyesore up there. For a man who... Alright, this goes on and on and on. You'll pardon me just once more. It would appear the sun has gone out, which in my fairly vast experience is typically a bad sign. And then there it is. We get another face-off between Nightmare and Loki.
Now, apparently, when I don't know if this is just like a trick of his or if this is a standard thing with Nightmare, but when he shows up, he actually blacks out a couple of blocks around them to the point that they actually later say it's like even the cell phones are not working, even the backup generators are not working. I don't know if this was something he does to intimidate his foes or if this is just a standard Nightmare's here, kill the power kind of a thing.
Yep. All right, so Nightmare says to Loki, it's all a bit too good to be true, isn't it? Your miraculous escape, your heroic redemption. The mind plays tricks in its final moments, turning seconds into days, and those and whose mind is trickier than yours, Laufey son. Time to stop lying to yourself. The truth is, you never escaped from Laufey's gut. To be continued. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so how are you enjoying the story so far?
Absolutely loving it. It is a little, I'd say, surreal at parts. I think you get the idea that you're never supposed to truly know what exactly is going on, which part of it is real and which part of it is Loki recounting and trying to figure out what actually happened. But sometimes I kind of like stories like that, and with a character like Loki, it works really well. You know, there are certain characters that can pull off that style of a story arc much better than others, and Loki is definitely one of them.
For sure. All right, let's take a pause for the cause and pay some bills. I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors here called Grammarly. Grammarly has AI-powered products that help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork to download Grammarly for free. Alrighty. Issue number 3, Earth's Cleverest Hero. Issue number 4. Loki's death has been foretold by the children of eternity. The Fear Lord Nightmare has come for vengeance, and among the Frost Giants, rebellion is brewing. Is even Loki clever enough to stay one step ahead this time? Perhaps now he's cursed with a brand new power that will forever transform the Marvel Universe's most dashing scoundrel as he begins a new journey into the biggest mystery of all. All right. So we are back to get a flashback of Loki as a child. We got Nightmare still messing with Loki's head. And then something really fun happens here. And since you've been doing it all episode here, go ahead and read me that number 4 Loki's tipster trick.
Hang on a second. Sorry, I had to step away from my computer. Loki's trickster tips number 4. Use your head. Sorry, I couldn't resist, and be honest, I never can and do not intend to in the future.
So Loki gets the upper hand here. He says... so he headbutts, and he said he does that tipster trick as he headbutts Nightmare. Oof, I forget these horns are primarily decorative. But my Nightmare vision, I saw it, yes, you saw what I feared the most. What can I say? I lied. And then we flash over to Tony because of the blackout, nothing is working, and, you know, it's kind of like that scene where, I don't know if you ever saw this in the news, where Microsoft was debuting, like, a new Windows, and, you know, it didn't work immediately. And they were all like, oh, God, and pulling on their collars and all of that.
I just love when they point out, because, what was the line here? It's like, how can our backup generators be out there 2 miles deep? This building goes further down than it goes up. And his assistant points out, could it be magic? And it's clear Tony's just so annoyed. He's like, of course, magic. Are people really still doing that?
I kept a story near the front of my mind, a plausible fear, like, say, being eaten alive by my own father. Hard to be terrified of something you've already survived. You overplayed your hand, godling. Now I'll scrape your true nightmare from your skull. By all means, try again. You fear what you truly fear is that it's just nothing's changed. You live your worst nightmares, says Nightmare. Ta-da! Since the day I was born, what kind of person gets everything they've spent 1,000 years scheming and killing for only to discover that they don't want it? Someone broke in. See, I thought this was great here. This was very insightful. Someone broke in, beyond fixing, beyond happiness. Someone who can only take. Certainly not a hero. That is what I fear. Listen to my voice. Am I lying now? No, your fear reached true. Then we are at an impasse. I simply cannot destroy you on this plane, and you cannot trap me in my own nightmares, as I already reside there. The only sensible thing for you would be to turn around, and he hits him with a stop sign. And he says, very well, we'll do this stupid way. Okay, this was right up there with the with the Doom Patrol, and now the punchy part begins. And they actually say that at some point in this. Like, we put this in the book because we feared there wasn't enough action, which I thought was funny.
I love that. Yarnbjorn, axe of Thor, I summon thee from mine bodiless magic bag of safekeeping. Just, oh my God, part of it is just like, just going full D&D terms here. You know you'll want to.
Mm-hmm. So they're whacking each other about with stop signs and whatnot, and so Loki says, "How about this? I have an even better idea. What if we just fight as mortals?" And there's another trickster tip here.
Loki's trickster tips. Actually, let's just see where this one is going.
So he says, "All right, let's put our powers in a magic bag, and let's have a mortal fight to the death." At which point, he drops a car on him. It's pretty hilarious.
That was actually, like I said, that was so freaking brilliant. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. 1 second, phone. Because, yeah, he had set a reminder earlier that he wanted to get one of the new cars that Tony was debuting. And the thing goes off and he goes, okay, please start the car for me. Which, let's face it, we are not that far off from having that available on our phones, where you can actually, it's like, Siri, warm up my car for me.
Oh, no, there's absolutely applications that can do that now. I mean, you have to pay for them, but like both my Toyotas have an application that starts your car for you.
Well, just make sure you've cracked the garage door first.
Well, it doesn't drive it; it just starts it. In any case, he drops a car on him, which, by the way, that being yet another meta joke, it's called the Anvil, and he drops it from the sky, and Nightmare did everything but hold up the sign that says, "Oh no."
He even gets it where he points the key at it and it goes, chirp, chirp.
Yep. So Nightmare had a car dropped on him.
The girl from the Nightmare has shown up.
Yep.
She tried to kill Nightmare with her dad's shotgun, and even Nightmare was like, okay, really? That's cute.
So Loki gives her a bit of advice. He was like, hey, you already know this works out, so go find her. And, your relationship is not lost. You just have to go back and get it. And so she does. So that kind of has a happy ending to it. Thor and Iron Man show up. And then we get then we go back to the future again, and we see Old Man Thor. And then we have the Unfather, who says, I have my hammer back now. And then it says, to be continued in the future. I honestly wish they had just ended it there. I honestly, because we're going to get to this 5th issue here, and if you can explain to me what happens in this 5th issue, I will send you one shiny nickel. Because to me, he had... The story, of him sowing wild oats and not wanting to sit on the throne and getting into it with Nightmare and having some fun at Tony Stark's expense, that all got resolved. It was all fun. It was a nice little tale. I was done with this in 4 issues. This 5th issue seemed very tacked on.
I agree. I'm not exactly sure where it fits. I mean, yeah, it's kind of cool seeing Loki in the Wild West and teaming up with Wolverine. That was kind of clever. But yeah, then they start cutting back and forth to him telling his story to an unknown person at the Raft, the Supermax villain prison. And again, it's very bizarre. I mean, he's essentially telling. Okay, we find that he's telling Verity Willis, who has the ability to always know who's telling the truth. She is literally a human lie detector, hence the name Verity. And Loki's going through all this stuff, telling her what's happened, and she says, well, nothing you've told me is a lie. And, and Loki was just like, okay, good, then I know that I'm not crazy.
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of reading on her. She's apparently a character from Agent of Asgard, which ran for several issues. But yeah, this is just like, it's just a team up with him and Wolverine, because Wolverine's got to be in everyone's books. And they have a kind of a fun Western story here, and it kind of goes back and forth with Loki doing the prison confessional with Verity. And we get some flashbacks, we get, more talking, and then he leaves. He gets out of the raft. And he opens a portal, and he's like, come on, let's go have some fun. And they jump into the portal, and they leave. And that's the end of the book. We're done.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, kind of satisfying a little bit the same way, but yeah, I'm with you that it should have ended one bit earlier. But still, I still enjoyed it.
Yep. All right, so overall, I think we can both agree that, is this going to sort of change the face of comics? No. But not every book we do on here is some massively told, amazing, change the face of literature and comic books kind of story. Sometimes we just kind of crack open a book and we go like, well, what's this one all about? And we talk about it, and then that's it. I would say from Death of Hawkman to, I don't know, what's like the Long Halloween? It's about a 5 on that scale. Better than the Death of Hawkman. Not nearly as good as some of the best stuff we've ever read. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's still fun. Loki is always a great character to read. Again, the humor is really good. This is one of the funnier books that we've read.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said before, the artwork is just gorgeous.
All right, so before we go, I want to remind everybody that we are using our code that's at the bottom of our description here on the podcast. You can sign up for a free 30 days of Amazon Music. We all use Amazon Music here for a variety of reasons. Checking out bands that we're going to review on the Metal Hammer of Doom, or we play it while we're working, putting together jewelry, doing the social media thing. It's got all the music you could ever want, and if you click on the link and you fill out the page and you agree to do the free 30 days, you can stream all the music there is to stream on Amazon Music, and it's the catalog is practically endless. And if you like it, you keep it, and you pay the monthly fee like you do for any other streaming services like Apple Music or Spotify. And if you don't, you cancel. But you've had a free 30 days of free music. Who doesn't love free, right, Alexis? Who doesn't love free?
Oh, free is the best.
It certainly is, Ollie. So go ahead and click our link at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. It helps us out. It helps keep the gears oiled on this machine. Helps us get more podcasts out. Puts a little cheddar in our pockets, which of course keeps the machine moving. So, like I said, this was a companion piece for the debuting Loki TV show. Tonight on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we've got Dr. Colossus. This is a great title. I don't know if you've seen this in the chat that I've referenced it, but it's literally the name of the album. Of course, Dr. Colossus is a reference to The Simpsons, and so is the album title. I'm a stupid moron with an ugly face and a big butt, and my butt smells, and I like to kiss my own butt. Jesse Starcher is on a well-needed vacation, but we have Simpson enthusiast Robert Winfrey on to talk about this doom metal band. Earlier this week, we kicked off Sunday with our coverage of the Floyd Mayweather-Logan Paul fight, and the second part of the Everybody Loves a Bad Guy series for Disney villains. Alexis Hejna was amongst a group of people who reviewed Lucifer Season 5B. Alexis and I also reviewed MODOK Head Games to go along with the MODOK series on Hulu, which we'll be reviewing later on this week. For fuck's sake. Actually, we reviewed it yesterday. What am I saying? We reviewed MODOK yesterday on Hulu. We also reviewed Samaritan, the new Sylvester Stallone movie. Tomorrow, Alexis Hejna will be back. She has been all over this week. Her and Sean Comer and I will be doing a comic strip for the Judas Contract. We will look at the animated movie and read the original source material and compare and contrast. On Friday, we've got a bunch of shows lined up. We've got a re-airing of our review of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Patrick Mullen and I will talk about the first half of the Season 3 of Dark Side of the Ring. And Alexis, Hejna, Sean Comer, and I will actually do an extra comic book review for DC Pride #1, because this is Pride Month here in the month of June. All right, last week we had a big week. We had the first part of the Everybody Loves a Bad Guy villains. We reviewed Mickey's Inferno. We reviewed Cruella. Everyone but me reviewed A Quiet Place Part 2. Jesse and I reviewed Bongzilla Wisconsin. AEW Double or Nothing. We did an on-trial for 101 Dalmatians. We had a re-airing of our Expendables 3 review. And Jesse put up a syndicated source material conversation he had about Colonel Jim Sanders. I don't know what that is. You should go check it out. All right. This being June 9th, what kind of plugs you got for us?
Well, we just wrapped up, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. It was like, I should probably introduce the company before I start talking about the plugs. We just wrapped up our Memorial Day sale last week, and hey, I want to thank everyone who participated, not only for helping me keep my bills paid, but because we did a charity drive, and every order that was placed, we donated $5 to the local Veteran Community Fund. Really, really grateful for all of you who came in to help out such a wonderful cause. Of course, this is Pride Month, so be sure to check out our shop. We have some wonderful Scrabble tile Pride-themed pieces. We have earrings and necklaces featuring the individual Pride flags. But in the meantime, we're getting ready because next month we are back on the road. We're going to KC Crypticon. This is our first convention in literally over a year. The dog days are over. That song's been playing on the radio a lot lately. Just so excited to be back on the road. So we're going to be debuting a ton of fun horror-themed jewelry. Cannot wait. In the meantime, of course, our online stores are still fully stocked on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. And be sure to take a look at our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more news. We will be debuting soon which conventions after Crypticon we'll be going to. We've been so scared and holding off on saying which shows we were going to work on because we were terrified we were going to jinx it, and then suddenly, Virus 2.0, or maybe even 3.0 at this point, was suddenly going to rear its ugly head, and we're like, we should have kept our mouths shut. But we're really excited. We're so happy we're going to be working the conventions again. We have missed you guys so much, and we're happy to be seeing all of our fans again. Yay! So happy! But again, be sure to check out our stores at Etsy and Handmade at Amazon for the time being. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, folks, that wraps up our source material live for Loki, the god who fell to Earth. When Loki wraps up, we'll have a review of that. And the companion piece for the show was partially inspired by the limited series Vote Loki. So just as we did with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we'll review that as well. So look for that sometime in August, I believe. Yeah, the week of August 16th. We are doing Vote Loki and the Loki television show. So stay tuned for that when Loki wraps up. Until then, I'm Mark Radulich. She's Alexis Hejna. Be well, be safe, and behave.